I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, a podcast where we explore the ins and outs of what becomes possible when we're willing to think, do, and show up differently to the moments of our everyday lives. You and I both know life can be hard and life can feel heavy at times. What I didn't always know was how much of the heavy I created, added, manufactured, that just added to the load I was already carrying, or even sometimes created a load that wasn't really even there. I once heard, we all carry a load. The heavy is in your head. Often in life, we can't control or change the load, but the heavy is often within our ability to influence. An example of this, imagine yourself in a stressful job, lots of demands and pressures to meet deadlines, a team to manage and decisions to make. That's a load. There's a certain amount of pressure with that. And then there's the noise in the head that one might add that could sound like, you'll never get this all done. You aren't equipped to do this job. One day they'll find out you shouldn't be in this role. Why aren't others taking on their fair share? Why am I always the one? And on and on and on. Or a single mom doing it all, working, caring for her children, keeping the house up, juggling all the plates while trying to keep her own sanity. A load for sure, a heavy load even. But the extra heavy might come from her own internal dialogue about it. Why am I alone? I'll always be alone. This is too much. I can't do it. I'm a terrible mom. Everyone else has it easier. And on and on. Or in an example of worry, maybe we find ourselves concerned for someone who hasn't been acting like themselves, and we begin to manufacture all the reasons why they aren't acting like themselves. They're mad at me. They haven't reached out in ages. The friendship just doesn't really matter to them like me. I'm tired of always being the one who has to reach out. And on and on. Feels like a load, but then maybe later we find out their dog passed away. And we created all that heavy for no reason when we could have just been reaching out. Ugh, all this mental noise. As humans, we're so good at spinning all kinds of thinking that may or may not ever be useful and ultimately weighs us down and pulls us away from the things we actually want to be doing, like performing, showing up energized and engaged on the job, or showing up just and doing our best and being the best mom we know how to be, reaching out to a friend who's maybe in need. We manufacture unnecessary stress and worry all over the place. And the perceived solution can often feel like we've got to get past the situation, get past the work deadline, complete the intense project, get life in order, get to the next step, meet that right person, and then we're going to feel better. The truth is, life can be hard and life can feel heavy at times. One place where you have influence is to raise your awareness to the heavy you add with your thinking. A tool I often share with clients that helps to separate the load from the heavy is to just ask and help them pull apart what's the actual circumstance and what's the story you're telling about it, because the heavy lives in the story. When we can separate the collapse, we really have power to choose how we're going to approach, how we're going to handle, and where we can actually lighten the load. This can be a game changer. Real change happens when you declare and decide and draw a line in the sand and put in some actions and steps to make a difference. And maybe today you want to start minimizing this extra dialogue, this extra heavy that maybe you're adding to a load you're carrying. So start today. Where are you manufacturing heavy? Adding bucketfuls of thoughts to a circumstance, a challenge, a job, a relationship challenge that may or may not be true, but weighs you down, causes you to pull away or not show up in the way you want. Write it down, write it all out, separate the actual load from the heavy, and see what you discover. And if you don't want to do it alone, You can ask for help, ask a friend, hire a professional. That's one of my favorite parts of the work I do with clients is sitting down and helping them unpack the heavy, pull out and figure out what's the actual load and what's the heavy so that they can focus on the ideal outcome they want and how they want to show up to the load, the circumstance in their life. And so they don't feel powerless anymore. I invite you and give you permission to set down the heavy where you can. Leave some of it behind. And as you do, you just might walk by a mirror and notice that you're standing a little taller, smiling a little wider, and feel newfound energy to step into the very fullness of who you are and what you're here to do.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and please help us spread the word by sharing this podcast with people you know. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.